My name is Ayomide Adefejide Omole, and I am the convener of this vlog, More to Space Than Air. Today, I have Iliass Tanouti, who is a space systems engineer with a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Manchester and a Master of Science in Interdisciplinary Space Studies from the International Space University, ISU. It was named top 10 under 30 Africans in space industry in 2020. Iliass' vision is that of using space technology for a more just and equitable society, as well as Africa's sustainable development, which he intends to achieve with JMA. Iliass has served as a regional coordinator for Africa at the Space Generation Advisory Council, SGAC, and as an ambassador for Africa at ISU. He has worked for Constellar, a company pioneering the use of thermal infrared microsatellites to deliver daily LSD imagery optimized for high precision agriculture. Thank you so much for joining me today, Iliass.
And I hope everyone else listening to this also has fun and enjoy.
So I would get right onto it by asking you, a very simple question. Do you want to please introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself. I know I had just read a short bio, but we would love to hear from the horse's mouth.
Yes, of course. So, again, my name is Iliass Tanouti. I'm from Morocco. I was born in Morocco and lived there until I was 18. One interesting thing, I guess, about me is that I studied in a Spanish school, high school, primary school, secondary school, everything. So I always grew up with this bilingual thing where I speak both Moroccan Arabic, Darija, and Spanish. I was sort of always going to continue my studies in Spain. But around 16, 17 years old, I thought that I wanted something different. So I pursued my studies in the UK and University of Manchester, aerospace engineering. Another funny thing is that I decided to study aerospace engineering not because I cared about aircraft or space or anything like that. I actually really liked Formula One. I was a very big Formula One fan. So, and most people who follow Formula One closely will know that most of chief engineers of Formula One teams have studied aerospace engineering. So that's how I started. One thing took me to another, ended up in space. I think the first point where I knew that I wanted to dedicate my professional life to space was, so I got this internship, this placement year at Thales Alenia in the UK. And after 1 month, I knew that, okay, this is it for me. It helped that I had an amazing supervisor, Andy Bacon. And but after my placement, I started my master's at the International Space University, which is based in Strasbourg, where I currently live. So I finished that 2-3 years ago. Okay, I haven't been counting lately. 2020, so 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. After that, I joined LeanSpace, which is a startup. Startup sort of developing software tools to manage space missions, and that was my first proper full work experience, which was really good one. But I always knew that I wanted to join the Earth observation industry. So after some time there, I left to find another opportunity in the Earth observation industry. Although before actually starting the new job, or even looking for it, I took a break of a few months to go traveling. But yes, now I'm back and working for an Earth observation company called Constellar, which is based in Germany, although I'm working from Strasbourg. So I hope that was not too much of a long.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. There's so much to talk to us about, and I'm so happy that we finally got to do this. Like I mentioned, the main objective of this vlog is to encourage the next generation of young space professionals to just introduce them to how the world is like in space, and really not to hear from the experiences of people who are in the industry, so they don't feel a bit frustrated and encumbered, getting into the industry. Because I had that experience coming here. I graduated in 2020 as well, during the pandemic. And you had some things, some projects you had prior to graduation that couldn't take fruition because of the effects of the pandemic. And we're going to talk about that much later in the discussion. But my next question to you was going to be, what was your interest in space? Why? But I think you already told us that about Formula One. And I think we all have different reasons why we got into this in the first place. Mine, although people laugh about it now, was because I just felt like I wanted to be close to the pilot guys. And maybe somehow I was going to get married to one of them. But I worked in aviation and space for what, 3-4 years, and still don't got me a pilot husband. But I see that as maturity comes into play, we start to have, find our own path and really stay on course of that. So my next question now to you is, there are frustrations that come with being in the industry, whether it be nationality, interest that you feel like you probably have, but has not really been cultivated in the space industry. How have you been able to deal with that? How has the entrance been for you? How has the reception been as well? If you would like to answer that.
Yes, okay. So I'll definitely and sometimes I forget about this, but there was a time where for me, even the idea of getting into the space industry, in terms of the constraints that my nationality would put into that was a really big issue, and I when I was thinking about it, I'll sometimes be okay, I don't know whether I can actually have a career in space because I will be so restricted in terms of where I can work and on what sort of projects I can work on. And to be honest, now that I think about it, I'm very happy that I really almost never think about it, at least that way. It still comes from time to time, but it's not the same. No, now I'm in the industry. I have, let's say, made it through in a way. But for sure, coming from a country which is not the US and not an European country, does add another layer of complexity or difficulty in getting to the space industry. But I would say that it has improved a lot since the new space era started. Most of the new companies, I would say, are much more open-minded to hiring internationals, and also since it's much more commercially oriented than government or military oriented, there is less problems now with hiring someone with a different passport. But of course, then you still have the problems of simply having the work permit, not working in France or in the UK. I've been lucky in a way myself because my parents were able to afford paying for me studying abroad. I can't lie about that. The truth is that if I had stayed home for my studies, maybe it would have been much more difficult not to achieve what I have, to be where I am. Not impossible, definitely not, because there is people who have done their higher studies in Morocco, and they are pretty much in the same place as I am, which is great. But for sure, when it comes to the space industry or the aerospace industry, sometimes it's an easier path studying abroad, also just in terms of getting that first opportunity that shapes your future career, because it helps you getting the first work permit and so on. And then so that will be maybe one of the big challenges. Then the other one, I guess, is no, just at some point when you're in your early 20s, you just feel lost in life, and you need to
We've
figure
been
out.
there.
You don't know exactly what you want. Where do you want to be, both professionally, but also in terms of living. Where do you want to live, and so on. And then a third part for me, and I think this is something that most people who volunteer will share, uh, is that when you want to build up on your CV, but also you do it because you enjoy it. In my case, everything that is related to the African space industry and so on. I've been part of many volunteering organizations doing volunteering work, and sometimes it's quite also frustrating or very challenging, at least, to manage your normal life, like your non-professional life, your work or your studies, and also all the volunteering. So yes, I would say those are the three main ones for me.
Thank you so much for that. Because I was, very inured to your story because of the nationality. But I just, wanted to just touch on one thing that you said. And really, the new space era. Can we just take a moment and just appreciate what that era is doing for young professionals like us? Because it has done so much to break barriers. And that's one of the things that African Union, the outer space strategy as well, is trying to achieve. So you have the space industry, although, it's national pride, the mentality of national pride is there, but we're starting to see more international engagement. And that's why you can have someone from Nigeria like me working with the Caribbean Space Society, and you're consulting for not for NASA or doing something else. And we're getting there. But one of the things that you mentioned that I want to touch, I want you to touch on is it's not just about that international recognition and engagement, but also when those international opportunities come, you need to be able to place yourself in a place that you're going to be able to get those opportunities based on merit. And I see that one of the things that you did was to go to the ISU. That's the International Space University for some people who don't already know. So how does someone get into the university? And it's so expensive. So what are, the ways to get the scholarship opportunities? And one of the things I saw was that you're currently doing an initiative to help, students get into the ISU with, a scholarship campaign. How can people hear more about that? And how can young professionals interested in getting into space get on board of that campaign?
You for me was actually a bit of a funny story as well, because I was at that it was 2019. I was in the middle of my placement in the UK at Thales Alenia. I knew that I wanted to continue perhaps studying a master's. So I was looking for engineering masters, space engineering masters. To be honest, there was, so I did quite a lot of research. I identified different masters and so on, and then there was really just one to which I felt attracted, or at least the young me felt attracted. Now I see it very, very differently, which was going to Stanford in the US. Another very, very prestigious university, very, very expensive. So yes, I set my mind to that. In my mind, it was, I'm either gonna do that. If I don't get that, I'm gonna try to find a job. If that doesn't work out either, which, to be honest, is difficult to find a job when you only have a bachelor's and 1 year placement experience. It's not so easy, especially again if you're not European or not American. I was okay. I will go and take that break that I have taken a few years later. So I applied to Stanford. At some point I was sure I was going to get it. I did not. Life. So yes, after getting rejected, I don't know what to do. So I spent the next couple of months not really doing anything about it. But time kept advancing, and at some point I needed to make a decision. I needed to do something. My parents were, of course, also pushing me to not go take a break, but rather continue my studies. So they were just apply to something. So that's what I did. I applied to ISU not knowing too much about it. I stumbled upon it like just looking on the internet for masters. One thing is that at that time their website, it, I don't know if they were in the process of changing it or something, but when you entered the website, it did not look like an official website. So it was a very strange feeling. But then at the same time, like they were talking about, like a university which has formed astronauts, which has formed some of the most renowned people in the most renowned companies and agencies in the world, with incredible connections everywhere and so on. And then there was their curriculum, which is not, ISU is not about space engineering, not at all. It's an interdisciplinary course. No, I mean, all of them, the masters, the summer program. And that's something that at that time, I mean, my brain couldn't even understand that. So I just didn't understood when I will see the curriculum and so on. So I applied, I still applied. I got it, and I got a scholarship, which, okay, not a full scholarship, but a scholarship good enough for me to still be able to attend. But still, at that point, I didn't know whether to accept the offer or not, because I didn't know whether that's what I wanted to do, because I didn't understand what it was. It was only after starting to tell people in my company about it, I'll tell them, oh, I've been accepted to this place called ISU, no? And they'll be, oh, wow, like very big congrats, that's so cool. Like I scratch my head and be, okay, I think I'm missing something here. So I called the head of admissions, Nassim. I had a chat with him where he explained me a bit more what it was all about. I did some more research, and then I realized that, okay, no, wow, like this is a very cool thing, and it actually fits very well my interest of not just learning about one single thing, but really feeding myself from different disciplines. Also the part of it being very international, very intercultural university is something that I really enjoyed. So I decided to attend. In terms of money, it's very expensive. It's very worth it, at least in my opinion. Now, there is a lot of scholarships that ISU offers to students. So don't just see the number, get scared, don't apply. It's true that getting a full scholarship is, I believe, but I might be wrong, only possible if NASA, if you're from the US and NASA covers the rest, or ESA covers the rest, or the Italian Space Agency or CNES in France. So it's true that if you're coming from a country like Morocco or Nigeria, it's less likely they will get fully funded, but you can still get a very good scholarship to attend that university. And the truth is that it's a university which will open up a door of opportunities for you that I don't know if any other university can, at least in the space industry. And then regarding your last point of this scholarship campaign that we ran, so this happened. It happened now 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. So this happened, and we did select. So basically, it was done together with the African Space Generation Workshop in Ghana. So at that time, I was the Africa Space Generation Regional Coordinator for the Space Generation Advisory Council, SGAC. Too many acronyms, sorry.
I know.
And so I had just graduated from the university. I had a really good relationship with Juan de Dalmau, the previous president. So yes, and also with Nassim and with some other people in ISU. So I sort of together with the two people who were running the workshop, we discussed this with them, and we convinced them to do some sort of competition between SGAC and ISU, on which the winners will get a partial scholarship to attend either the master's or the summer program. We did do this. We did select the winners. Now the problem was that, unfortunately, despite the partial scholarship, most of them still didn't have the funds to cover the rest. However, one of them did attend a course. I believe she didn't have to pay anything because we managed to get from somewhere else some money or something like that. Or maybe she did have to pay like just a little bit. I don't remember very well. Which was very good. But to be honest, I also felt frustrated that of all the other, of all the selected winners, which were 6, and all the work that we had put in there, eventually only one person was able to attend. That was, to be honest, quite sad for me. We haven't done this again. I would love to do it again, but it doesn't only depend on me.
Being, the regional director for the SJC for Africa, how was that like? Because I know it was also during that time you got nominated as top 10 under 30. How did that feel like? How was it? Was it like a good validation for everything you've been doing, your journey thus far?
In the time in COVID time, so I was finishing my ISU degree. The ISU's master's also requires you to do an internship, which sometimes can be converted into just if you got a job, just your job. But since ISU has very, very good connections, you can take advantage to spend a few months in places that otherwise, again, due to nationality, will be impossible for me. So I actually had got accepted for an internship at NASA Ames, and basically COVID arrived. So initially it was just, let's postpone the internship. Eventually it was, okay, we cancel it. I'm just gonna do something else. But that time of COVID gave me, in a way, a lot of free time, which I was able to spend on volunteering and on focusing my time on let's say outreach, space communication, and everything that is the development of the African space industry and so on. So that's where I applied to be a regional coordinator for Africa. I won the elections, which was actually quite surprising because I was not even, before that, I wasn't part of SGAC or anything. It was my but I was I had so many discussions with so many of the MPOCs and so on, and we clicked right away with so many of them, so that helped a lot. And it was a really great experience in the sense of how much I learned from other people, from other countries, from other cultures, and also we were able to do a lot of very, very cool stuff. It was also at some point a very challenging time, again, because of just at the end, volunteering is a whole amount of extra time they have to dedicate to something that you're not getting paid for, but you're getting paid in another way, in the way of learning. The top 10 arrived around that time as well. I also started sort of being ambassador for Africa for ISU at that time, and all of those things, yes, they were a really great way of validating what I was doing, and also giving me the opportunity to do more things, more ambitious things, opening lots of doors for me, and especially learning a lot. So yeah.
That's great, Iliass. You've done so well for yourself. And I am so proud to know you and to also know, that you're contributing to the African space industry. I would like to close the interview, but I wanted to ask you, what has been the response from Africa's youth, and how can we get involved? And if you would like to round that up with your closing remark on your advice to young professionals who are looking into getting into the space industry.
Yes, sure. So from my personal experience, I think young Africans who are into space, they're probably some of the most enthusiastic I have seen, and some of the ones that want to dedicate the most time to it, and no, that was one of the most amazing things of being part of SJC or some of these other volunteering projects. And then in terms of advice to get into the space industry, the volunteering road it's definitely a very, very good one to get started, especially if you come and live in a country where there is essentially no space industry or there is barely anything, which is unfortunately the case for most countries in Africa, although that's slowly changing. But then I would say that volunteering has to be the starting point, but you have to complement that with your studies. You need to know whether it's a master's or it's your bachelor's degree or just a course. You need to somehow try to orient your education in that direction as well, so that you can get more seriously into it and increase the chances of you getting professional opportunities to dedicate your career to it.
Thank you so much, Iliass. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Should anyone want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Probably LinkedIn is the best way. I have not been using it too much lately, to be honest, but that's probably still the best way of getting in touch with you.
Do you have any particular business hours, or can they just...
No,
No?
just
Okay, so you heard it. You can approach Iliass Tanouti on LinkedIn. And from us at More to Space Than Air, we'd like to appreciate you for making time out to speak with me today. It was really nice. I found it very insightful. I actually learned quite a number of things, So, but I'm not going to be diverging anything. So if you know that you have questions or comments for myself or Iliass, you can always drop that below at the comment button. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful time listening, I guess. All right, bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.